Hello everyone, this side Dr. Abhijit, and today we are going to discuss the urogenital embryology. The very first thing that I will be discussing in the urogenital embryology, it is the development of the kidneys. Now before that, let us just start from the scratch. You already know from the general embryology, we have three definitive germ layers, right? We have three definitive germ layers, right? We have this ectoderm, okay? We have endoderm, and in between we have the mesoderm. In between we have the mesoderm. Now, I'm highlighting the mesoderm with the yellow color over here, right? So this is, let us suppose this is the mesoderm, and mesoderm, in the central part of the mesoderm, you will see the neural tube, right? You will see the neural tube in the central part, right? And yes, at the sides of the neural tube, what you will see? The neural crest cells, right? We have the neural crest cells. So this is the neural tube, right? Neural tube, and this is the neural crest cells, right? Neural crest cells, right? Now, this area that I have highlighted with the yellow color, it is the mesoderm. I hope everyone knows this, right? So yes, below the neural tube, you already know we have the notochord, which is temporary and it will like disappear. Now, just lateral to the neural tube, right? Along the sides of the neural tube, we have another set of, yes, we have another set of this mesoderm that is called as the para-axial mesoderm. Axial का मतलब क्या होता है? Midline. Now it is just side to the midline, okay? Just on the sides of the midline. That's why it is called as the para-axial mesoderm. So this is, yeah, this is the para-axial mesoderm. Para-axial mesoderm. Now, next to the para-axial mesoderm, we have another mesoderm over here. We have another mesoderm, and this mesoderm, it is called as the intermediate mesoderm. Now, this is very important. This is the intermediate mesoderm, right? And yes, towards the lateral side, towards the lateral end, we have another set of mesoderm over here. We have another set of mesoderm over here, and this is called as the lateral plate mesoderm. Okay, it is called as the lateral plate mesoderm. So we have the para-axial, intermediate, and lateral plate mesoderm. Now over here, the kidneys, they are developing from the intermediate mesoderm, right? They are developing from the intermediate mesoderm. So remember that, let us suppose, just make a flow chart over here, that let us suppose this is the intermediate mesoderm, and this intermediate mesoderm, it is giving rise to two structures, okay? Two important structures that you have to remember. One, it is the nephrogenic cord, okay? One, it is the nephrogenic cord, right? And nephrogenic cord is the one which will give rise to the kidneys. It will give rise to the kidneys, right? The second one, it is the genital ridge. It is the genital ridge, and yes, it will form the gonads. It will form the gonads, the testis and the ovary, right? It will form the testis and the ovary, right? So intermediate mesoderm will have two structures which will develop in the intermediate mesoderm, that is the nephrogenic cord and the genital ridge. The nephrogenic cord is the one which will give rise to the kidneys, and the other one, that is the genital ridge, it will give rise to the gonads. So let us now draw the structure of the nephrogenic cord. Structure of the nephrogenic cord, and let's understand what is the fate of this nephrogenic cord. So let's draw the structure of the nephrogenic cord. Now, nephrogenic cord. Now, the nephrogenic cord has three parts, right? It has three parts, right, in pairs. Yes. So try to draw as it is, like I am drawing. We have three parts of the nephrogenic cord. Yes. The first part of the nephrogenic cord, it is called as the pronephros, right? It is called as the pronephros. The second part, it is called as the mesonephros. The mesonephros. And the third part, it is called as the metanephros. It is called as the metanephros. So we have pronephros, mesonephros, and metanephros, right? So these all three are the structures of this nephrogenic cord, right? Now, from the mesonephros, there will be a duct coming out, okay? There will be a duct which is coming from the mesonephros, and this duct, it is called as the mesonephric duct, right? It is called as the mesonephric duct. This is the mesonephric duct. So this is the, yes, write down, it is the mesonephric duct. Yes, which will open into the urogenital sinus, right? It will open into the urogenital sinus. Let me draw the urogenital sinus for you. So this is, let us suppose this is the urogenital sinus. Now, this urogenital sinus, it is endodermal in origin, right? It is not mesodermal in origin. It is like a part of the hind gut tube, yolk sac endoderm, right? So urogenital sinus is something which is endodermal in origin. Again, very, very important. You have to remember it is endodermal in origin. And yes, the mesonephric duct, okay, once it enters the urogenital sinus, okay, it will form the trigone of the bladder, right? It will form the trigone of the bladder. So the one which I am highlighting right now, it is called as the trigone of the bladder. Trigone of the bladder. Now, if I ask you, the trigone of bladder, it is mesodermal or endodermal? Yes, it is mesodermal in origin because it is the mesonephric duct which is forming the trigone of the bladder. Now, you should remember the whole urinary bladder, right? Let us just write these two statements. The whole urinary bladder, right? The urinary bladder, it basically develops from the urogenital sinus. Okay, it develops from urogenital sinus, right? It develops from the urogenital sinus, and urogenital sinus, it is endodermal in origin. It is endodermal in origin. So remember, the trigone of the urinary bladder, it is developed from, okay, it is developed from the absorbed part of the mesonephric duct, absorbed part of mesonephric duct, right? It is the mesonephric duct which will form the trigone of the urinary bladder, right? So you already know the mesonephros will give a duct that is called as the mesonephric duct, and it will open into the urogenital sinus. Urogenital sinus, it is endodermal in origin, right? It is coming from the endoderm. It is, yeah, the hind gut, yes, the part of the gut tube that is obviously endodermal. ठीक है, gut किससे बना हुआ है? Yolk sac, right? So yes. Now, the mesonephric duct will form the trigone of the bladder. Now, before entering into the urogenital sinus, it will give a bud, okay, that is called as the ureteric bud. I am coming to that particular part now, okay. So, now this ureteric bud is the one which will stimulate the metanephros to form the part of the renal system, right. So, remember, before entering the urogenital sinus, the mesonephric duct will give rise to, ureteric buds, okay, ureteric buds, right, and it will stimulate, what it will do, it will stimulate the metanephros to form the parts of the renal, and this metanephros, it will form the parts of the renal system, right. So now in male, the mesonephros is basically, okay, before that just remember one more thing, that this mesonephros in males, this is the symbol for males, in males the mesonephros is the one which will be forming the efferent ductules, right? It will be forming the efferent ductules. Apart from that, you can see the metanephros wala part over here. You can easily see the metanephros wala part over here. Now the ureteric bud, okay, it will stimulate the, what we say, the metanephros, and this will something which will give rise to the parts of the renal system. So let us just draw this. Let us just draw this and understand, right? Now, I am taking this particular portion over here, that is the metanephros, as everyone can see. So I am taking this portion out from this particular diagram. Now this metanephros is nothing but a part of the nephrogenic cord, right? So let me just draw this metanephros for you and the mesonephric duct. So let us suppose this is the metanephros, right? This is the metanephros. Now, this is the metanephros, and you already know we have this mesonephric duct which is passing and going to the urogenital sinus. Now, before entering into the urogenital sinus, okay, it will give rise to a bud that is called as the ureteric bud, and this ureteric bud will enter into the metanephros, right? It will enter into the metanephros. Now this structure which I am drawing, yes, this is called as the ureteric bud, okay, it is called as the ureteric bud, right? This structure, you already know, it is the mesonephric duct which is coming from the mesonephros, right? And before entering into the urogenital sinus, right, it is giving ureteric bud. So yes, before entering into the sinus, that is the urogenital sinus, it is giving rise to ureteric bud, okay. So this is the urogenital sinus, right. Now this ureteric bud, when it reaches the metanephros, okay, it will differentiate, okay, it will differentiate and it will form the, yes, it will differentiate and it will form metanephric blastema, right? It is called as, it will differentiate and a structure will be formed over here. Yes, this is called as the metanephric blastema. Now, from the ureteric bud, what all are the structures that are coming from the ureteric bud? Firstly, you should know, okay, you already know the basic structural and functional unit of kidney, that is the nephrons, right? Now, nephrons, it is made up of various parts. Now, which parts are like they are arising from the ureteric bud? Number one, it is the collecting duct, okay, the collecting duct of the nephron, okay. We have the minor and the major calyx, the minor and the major calyx, okay, calyces, right. The renal pelvis, the renal pelvis will also rise from here only, the renal pelvis, and obviously the ureteric part will give rise to the ureter. Ureteric bud will give rise to the ureter. Now, if we come to this metanephric blastema, it will give rise to, okay, I'm just writing over here, yeah, the metanephric blastema. Now, it will give rise to the very first one, the structure in the nephron, that is the Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule. We have, yeah, the proximal convoluted tubule. Yes, we have the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, we have the loop of Henle. Okay, the loop of Henle. Yes, the loop of Henle, and ultimately the collecting tubules, right? The collecting tubules. So, Bowman's capsule, PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, DCT, distal convoluted tubule, okay. Then we have the loop of Henle, and lastly we have the collecting tubules. So, all these structures of the kidney, they are arising from the metanephric blastema, okay, and the ureteric part. So, two important structures, and yes, this is the ureteric bud that you have to remember, and the metanephric blastema, right? The metanephric blastema. So that was about the development of these parts of the kidney. Now coming on to the development of the urethra, right? So the next one, it is the development of the urethra. Now, as you all know that we have the male urethra, okay, the male urethra and the female urethra, right? We have the male urethra and the female urethra. The male urethra, it is about 20 centimeters in length. Okay, it is about 20 centimeters in length, whereas the female urethra, it is about 4 centimeters in length, right? It is about 4 centimeters in length. That's why no, the infections are more common to female urethra, the UTIs, urinary tract infections, because of the shorter length of the urethra. It is one of the reasons that the infections, they are more common to female urethra. It can happen in male, but most common it is the female. So let us just try to see. As you all know that we have the urogenital sinus, right? The urogenital sinus, it will be developing into the urinary bladder. It will be developing into the urinary bladder, and yeah, we have the different parts of the male urethra. We have the different parts of this male urethra. Try to make it big so that you understand this is longer as compared to the female urethra, right? Now, you already know this is the urogenital sinus, right? This is the urogenital sinus, urogenital sinus. And in the urogenital sinus, you already know the urogenital sinus, it is ectodermal in origin, right? It is ectodermal. Repeating the last line again. You already know the urogenital sinus, it is endodermal in origin, right? It is endodermal in origin. And in between we have the trigone of the bladder. Okay, we have this trigone of the bladder, and this trigone, okay, it is coming from the mesonephric duct, absorbed part of the mesonephric duct, trigone of the bladder, right? The trigone of the bladder. Now we have three parts over here of the male urethra. One, it is called as the prostatic urethra, right? It is called as the prostatic urethra. Prostatic urethra. Then we have the membranous urethra, right? We have the membranous urethra, and at last we have the spongy urethra. Spongy urethra, right? Now all these parts of the urethra, prostatic, membranous and the spongy urethra, they all are derived from the urogenital sinus, right? These all are basically all derived from the urogenital sinus, except, remember, except it is the posterior wall of the prostatic urethra. Except, this is like you have to remember, it is the repeat it is the posterior wall of prostatic urethra, right? So the entire urethra in the male, it is basically developed from the urogenital sinus only, but the posterior wall of the prostatic urethra, it is coming from the mesonephric duct. It is coming from the mesonephric duct. That is something you have to remember. It is coming from the mesonephric duct. Now, coming on to the female urethra. Now let me just draw this female urethra, right? Let us suppose that this is the female urethra, right? It is shorter in length, right? So let us suppose this is the trigone, or sorry, this is the urogenital sinus, and yes, we have this urethra. Remember, this entire female urethra, it is derived from endodermal urogenital sinus. Okay, it is also coming from or derived from urogenital sinus, except the posterior wall of urethra. Over here also, the posterior wall of the urethra, it is derived from the mesonephric duct. Okay, so except the posterior wall of urethra, so it is derived from the mesonephric duct. So yes, the entire urethra in males, okay, whether it is the prostate part, the membranous part or the spongy part, it is coming from the urogenital sinus. Urogenital sinus किसका part है? Endoderm का part है, right? I mean it is a part of the hind gut. Hind gut क्या है? Gut tube. Gut tube क्या है? Yolk sac. Yolk sac क्या है? Endoderm. So in that case you have to take your memory flashback पूरा लेके जाना है, ठीक है? So you already know every part of the male urethra, it is coming from this urogenital sinus except the posterior part of the prostatic urethra. Apart from that, the female urethra, it is shorter in length, right? So the female urethra, the posterior part, it is coming from the mesonephric duct, otherwise the entire urethra in the female also, it is coming from the urogenital sinus, right? So yes, that was about the development of the urethra. Now coming on to the next part, that is the Wolfian duct or the mesonephric duct. Now once this mesonephric duct has given ureteric bud, it is now called as the Wolfian duct. Okay, once the mesonephric duct, it has given rise to the ureteric bud and the corresponding structures, it will be now called as the the Wolfian duct, right? So let's start with the sexual development in the males. Okay, the sexual development in the males. Now you already know, let's just draw a flowchart and understand what is happening, right? The normal sexual development in males, you know that in males what is present? Y chromosome is present, right? Y chromosome is present. Now this Y chromosome is present, it means that the SRY region is also present. SRY region is also present. So you already know, yeah, this SRY region is also present. Now this SRY region, it is present on the distal end of the short arm of the first chromosome, right? Repeating the last line. So you already know, repeat last line. So you already know the SRY region, it is also present, Y chromosome is present, and it is present on the distal end, right? It is present on the distal end of the short arm of Y chromosome, right? That was again a question that has been asked previously, so even if you don't remember, it's okay, right? So last वाली line cut कर देना, even if you remember this, it's okay. Okay, now in males, now this SRY region, okay, in males this SRY gene, right, in males this SRY gene, there is a gene called as the XRY gene, SRY gene, okay, it activates another gene that is called as the SOX9 gene, SOX9 gene, and this gene, it is required for testis formation. It is required for testis formation, right? It is required for testis formation. Now you already know, we have earlier discussed in the starting, I have already told you that the intermediate mesoderm will give rise to two structures. We have the nephrogenic cord and we have the genital ridge. So if SRY region is present, if the Y chromosome is there, so the gonads over here will be what? Testis only, right? So the gonads will be testis, right? The gonads over here will be testis. You have to understand this very conceptually, right? Now the testis, okay, let me just correct the spellings, repeat kar dena isko. Yeah, the gonads will be the testis. So you have to understand this clearly so that it's easy to learn all the disorders also, right? Now if I ask you testis, now these testis, they are developing from the genital ridge, right? The genital ridge, and approximately around like 6 to 7 weeks, right? They are developing from the genital ridge around 5 to or around 6 to 7 weeks, around 6 to 7 weeks. Now you already know the testis has two compartments, the anatomical compartment and the interstitial compartment. I have already discussed this in the general embryology. The testis, okay, it has two compartments, the anatomical compartment and the interstitial compartment. The anatomical compartment contains one cell that is called as the Sertoli cells, right? Contains one thing that is called as the Sertoli cells, and the interstitial compartment it contains the Leydig cells, right? It contains the Leydig cells. Now, the Sertoli cells, they basically appear by 6 to 7 weeks, right? So remember, they appear by 6 to 7 weeks, and they express the SRY gene. They will more express this gene, okay, and that will be responsible for the release of two important substances, right? Okay, there will be, yeah, two important substances which will be released from the Sertoli cells, right? This is the one, it is called as the Müllerian inhibiting substance, Müllerian inhibiting substance, right? Also called as the, yeah, anti-Müllerian hormone, right? It is called as the anti-Müllerian hormone also, anti-Müllerian hormone, right? So this will be released by the Sertoli cells, which will be responsible for the regression of Müllerian duct, okay, which will be responsible for the regression of the Müllerian duct. Now, in the starting beta, we have two types of ducts which are present. One is called as the Wolffian duct, and the other one, it is the Müllerian duct, right? The Wolffian duct, it is also called as the mesonephric duct, and the, yeah, Müllerian duct, it is also called as the paramesonephric duct. So yes, this Müllerian duct, now this Müllerian duct, it will be regressed in case of males, right? It will be regressed in case of males, and there are remnants of the Müllerian duct in males. There are remnants of the Müllerian duct in males, and these are called as the prosthetic utricle, and remember, there is another structure called as the appendix of the testis, right? It is also called as the appendix of the testis. So these two structures are the remnants of the Müllerian duct in males. Remnants of the Müllerian duct in males. This was about the Müllerian inhibiting substance. On the other hand, the Sertoli cells will also release inhibin B. It will also release inhibin B, and this inhibin B will have a negative feedback, okay? It will have a negative feedback on FSH, and yes, so the levels of the FSH will be decreased. And remember one more thing that this Müllerian inhibiting substance is doing, it is helping in the abdominal descent of the testis also, right? So yes, Müllerian inhibiting substance, it is responsible for abdominal descent of testis. Abdominal descent of testis. So this is something that you have to remember. They appear by 7 to 8 weeks, and I have already told you they lie outside the blood-testis barrier, right? They lie outside the blood-testis barrier. Blood-testis barrier, it is also called as Sertoli barrier. Blood-testis, it is like a misnomer, right? It is the barrier which is formed by the Sertoli cells, the tight junctions, okay? They don't allow the toxins that are present in the blood to reach the developing spermatozoa, right? So that is, you have to remember about the Leydig cells. But remember over here, these Leydig cells will secrete a hormone that is called as the testosterone, okay? And they will secrete testosterone at 8 weeks, okay? They will secrete testosterone at 8 weeks. And this testosterone, now you already know the Wolffian duct or the mesonephric duct. Now it will be coming in. Now these testosterone, it will promote the growth of Wolffian duct. Remember, it will promote growth of Wolffian duct, and this Wolffian duct, okay, what it will lead to? It will lead to the formation of male internal genital organs, okay? It will lead to formation of male internal genital organs. male internal genital organs, and that you can remember with the help of mnemonic seed. With the help of mnemonic seed. And what are those organs? What are those organs? Remember, S stands for seminal vesicles. Yes, S stands for seminal vesicles. Yes. Another E stands for epididymis. Epididymis, you already know we have two parts of the epididymis, the cranial part and the caudal part, right? The sperm motility and the sperm maturity takes place in the epididymis. Apart from that, we have the ejaculatory duct, right, which opens into the penis, and automatically we at the last one, it is the vas deferens, right? So remember the male internal genital duct. So if I ask you the Wolfian duct or the mesonephric duct, okay, in males it is giving rise to the seminal vesicles, the epididymis, the ejaculatory duct, and the vas deferens. Apart from that, what will happen? Okay, apart from that, what will happen? This testosterone will have a negative feedback. It will have a negative feedback on GnRH, that is the gonadotropin releasing hormone, and LH also, right? It will have a negative feedback on LH also. And what this will do, it will in turn help in the scrotal descent of the testis. Scrotal descent of testis, right? So that is one of the use. And apart from that, remember, with the help of 5-alpha reductase, remember, with the help of 5-alpha reductase, what it will lead to? It will get converted to dihydrotestosterone, right? Dihydrotestosterone. It is also called as the DHT. It is also called as DHT. Now, this dihydrotestosterone and testosterone will be responsible for the masculinization, okay, will be responsible for the masculinization of the external genitalia, okay. It will be responsible for the masculinization of the external genitalia, right? Now, that was about the sexual development in the males. Now, the first feature, one question that I have to discuss over here, yeah. The first feature basically which appears on ultrasound, okay. The first feature of developing testis, it appears on ultrasound. It is the testicular cords, okay. It is the testicular cords, right, which appear by 6 weeks, right. It is the testicular cords, and the descent of the testis, they occurs with the help of gubernaculum, right. Now the first stimulus for these Leydig cells, it is coming from HCG. This also you already know, the first stimulus, it is coming from the HCG. And yeah, we have already discussed about the sexual development now. So if I ask you, yeah, in males, you will get this Wolfian duct will give rise to male internal genital organs, that is seminal vesicle, epididymis, ejaculatory duct, and vas deferens. Apart from that, yes, the other one, the regression of the Müllerian duct, because Müllerian duct तो है नहीं, paramesonephric duct तो regress हो जाएगा, तो उसका remnant आप लोगों को याद रखना है, that is the prostatic utricle and the appendix of testis. So that is the remnant of the Müllerian duct in males, right? So this was about the normal sexual development in males. Now coming on to the next one, that is the normal sexual development in females. Now you already know in females, Y chromosome is absent. Y chromosome is absent. You know now, females, what is the karyotype? It is XX, the normal karyotype, right? So you already know the Y chromosome is absent. Y chromosome is absent. So what will be the gonads? Since the Y chromosome is absent, it will determine that the gonads will be testis over here, right? It will be, repeating the last line, the gonads will be ovaries over here, right? The gonads will be ovaries over here, right? So you already know absence of the Y chromosome will determine which gonad is present. If Y chromosome is present, it is the testis. If Y chromosome is absent, it is the ovaries. Now, ovaries, they don't contain any Sertoli cells, right? So let us just draw the flow chart again. You know, they don't have any Sertoli cells, and also they don't have Leydig cells also. They don't have Leydig cells, right? They don't have Leydig cells. So now what will happen? Now, if there are no Sertoli cells, you already know there will be no anti-Müllerian hormone or Müllerian inhibiting substance, right? There will be no anti-Müllerian or hormone or Müllerian inhibiting substance. You already know in males there was Müllerian inhibiting substance, so there was regression of the Müllerian duct. But over here, if there is no anti-Müllerian hormone, what will happen now? Now what will happen? The Müllerian duct will grow, right? The Müllerian duct will grow, okay? It will grow and it will lead to the development of, okay, the female genital organs. You already know the internal genital organs, that is the fallopian tube, okay? The fallopian tube, we have the uterus, right? We have the uterus, we have the cervix and the vagina, and especially the upper part of the vagina. I will be discussing about the lower part, but as of now, remember the upper vagina, it is coming from this Müllerian duct or the paramesonephric duct. Now, there is no Leydig cells present. There is no Leydig cells present. So it clearly indicates that there will be no testosterone. There will be no testosterone. So what will happen if there is no testosterone? The Wolfian duct will regress. The Wolfian duct regresses, and this Wolfian duct, the remnant you have to remember, the remnant of Wolfian duct in females, it is the first one, it is called as the epoophron, okay? Repeat, the first one, it is called as the epoophron, okay? Epoophron. Then we have the paraophron, and the last one, that is the Gartner's duct. Last one, that is called as the Gartner's duct, right? So remnant of Wolfian duct in females, it is the epoophron, paraophron and the Gartner's duct. Apart from that, if there is no testosterone, so there will be no conversion to dihydroxytestosterone, right? So there will be no masculinization of external genitalia, right? And due to this, the female or the external genitalia looks like female. External genitalia looks like female. Right, so this was about the normal sexual development in females. So if I ask you, the paramesonephric duct in females will give rise to fallopian tube, uterus, cervix and the upper vagina, right? So let's make a table and take a summary out of this, what we have discussed. So if I say you, the Wolfian duct, also called as the mesonephric duct. Mesonephric duct. Now, in males and in females, what it will lead to, right? What it will lead to. So, you already know in males, the Wolffian duct. We have already discussed the Wolffian duct. It will give rise to the seed structure, right, which you can see on the screen, right, which you can see the seminal vesicles, the epididymis, ejaculatory duct and vas deferens, right. This is something that you already know. But apart from that, you have to remember this Wolffian or mesonephric duct will also give rise to the ureteric bud, okay, and its derivatives. We have already discussed about the ureteric bud and its derivatives. It will also give rise to the trigone of the urinary bladder. And apart from that, it will also give rise to the posterior wall of the prostatic urethra. This is all coming from this mesonephric duct only, right? Posterior wall of the prostatic urethra, and it will give rise to the spermatic pathway, right? It will give rise to the male internal genital organs or the spermatic pathway that you already know. It is the seed structure, right? The seed. Seminal vesicles, ejaculatory duct, epididymis and vas deferens, right? Now, but in females, this Wolffian duct, the remnant of the Wolffian duct is theirs, right? But the other structures, let's talk about the other structures and summarize it first. Yes, you already know. In females, it will give rise to the ureteric bud and its derivative, right? The ureteric bud and its derivatives. Apart from that, it will again give rise to the trigone of the urinary bladder. And it will give rise to the posterior wall of the urethra, right? And in females, the remnant is there, right? The remnant is there, and yes, I have already talked about the remnants of this, what we say, the Wolffian duct in females, right? You can see over here, it is the Gardner's duct, paraophron and the epophron, right? So we have, yeah, remnants, that is, yeah, the epophron, paraophron and the third one, that is the Gardner's duct. Now coming on to the next one over here, that is the Müllerian duct, also called as the paramesonephric duct, right? Also called as the paramesonephric duct. Now, this Müllerian duct or the paramesonephric duct in males, I have already told you in males they will regress, right? They will regress and they will give rise to this prostatic utricle and appendix of testis. So remember over here, this Müllerian duct or paramesonephric duct in males, let us just draw, this is males and this is the females, right? So in males, it will give rise to prostatic utricle, okay, and it will also give rise to the appendix of testis, whereas in female it will give rise to the fallopian tube, right? It will give rise to fallopian tube. It will also give rise to the uterus. It will also give rise to the cervix, and I have already talked about the upper part of the vagina. upper part of vagina, right? So this is in nutshell what is the derivatives or the fate of the mesonephric, also known as the Wolfian duct, and the paramesonephric duct, also known as the Müllerian duct, right, in males and females respectively. And how they are forming these structures I have already discussed, right? Now coming on to the next topic, that is the development of the external genitalia, right? Now, before the external genitalia, we have already discussed that the upper vagina will be formed from the paramesonephric duct, right, or the Müllerian duct. But the lower vagina, it is formed from the sinovaginal bulb. So let's write down this also. The lower vagina, okay, it is formed from the sinovaginal bulb. Sinovaginal bulb of the urogenital sinus. Urogenital sinus. Urogenital sinus, it is endodermal. The sinovaginal bulb, okay, the structure from the urogenital sinus will form the lower vagina. So the lower vagina, indirect, it is actually the endodermal in origin. It is endodermal in origin. Now coming on to the development of the external genitalia. See, external genitalia will develop like in the same amalgam that is in both males and females. So you already know, if testosterone, okay, or dihydroxytestosterone, if it is present, okay, if it is present, then what it will be forming? The male external genitalia, right? Whereas if the testosterone or the dihydroxytestosterone, if it is absent, right, if it is absent, then what will be formed? Female external genitalia, right? Now you already know. Now, so let us take two cases over here. We have testosterone present, so it simply indicates we have XY karyotype over here, and if the testosterone, it is absent, we have XX karyotype, that is the female. So this is the male, right, and this is the normal female, the male and the normal female. Now the three structures are there. Genital tubercle, right, genital tubercle, labioscrotal swelling, and we have the genital fold, okay, we have the genital fold or urethral fold, right, we have the genital or the urethral fold. Now the genital tubercle in males will give rise to the penis, right, it will give rise to the penis, whereas in the females it will give rise to the uterus, right, it will give rise to the uterus. The labioscrotal swelling in males, it will give rise to, the name only suggests, it is the scrotum, whereas in the females it will give rise to, yes, in the females it will give rise to labia majora, right. Now the urethral fold or the genital fold in males will give rise to the penile urethra, right, the penile urethra, and in females it will give rise to labia minora, okay. So yes, that was about the external genitalia. Now it is the testosterone which is present and which decides whether the genitalia will be male or female. Now if suppose the testosterone, it is not present normally, right, if the testosterone levels are low, okay, so in male and in female it will both lead to something that is called as the ambiguous genitalia, yes, It is the ambiguous genitalia, right?